There's been a lot of debate over the new Paper Mario game that's set to be released this summer. While many people believe the Origami King looks like a return to form for the Paper Mario series, others aren't so sure. I myself posted a video expressing my disappointment at what I saw in the game's trailer. Since posting that video, I've done a lot of thinking about what exactly it is I'm looking for in a new Paper Mario game. I'm a huge fan of the first two games in the series, so obviously I'm looking for something similar to them. But what specifically about these games do I want to see in a new entry? What are the necessary components of a new RPG Paper Mario? After playing through both games again and taking some time to think about these questions, I've essentially boiled down my answer to two main features: a deep battle and leveling system, and excellent stories and characters. It's these elements that I think really define the Paper Mario experience for me. There are other aspects of these games that I also want to see, such as one interconnected map and interesting puzzles, but I think the other two features I mentioned represent the core of Paper Mario, at least for me. Let's start off with the battle and leveling systems. When I say I want a deep battle and leveling system, I don't mean the kind of depth you would find in The Witcher 3. The depth I'm referring to is the variety of options you have when engaging in combat. While Mario only has 5 main options to choose from while in combat, there are many different abilities within those options that you can choose from. For example, the multi-bounce ability allows you to jump on every enemy once, while the power bounce ability allows you to jump on one enemy continuously, provided you properly execute the action command each time. These abilities are granted to Mario when he equips a badge, which is an item that can be found throughout the world or purchased from certain vendors. The depth of Paper Mario's combat comes not just from the variety of options, but also from the limitations placed on those options. You can only equip a certain amount of badges at a given time, which is determined by a resource known as badge points. Each badge costs a certain amount of badge points, with more powerful abilities generally being more expensive. Since you can't equip every ability at once, you need to be strategic about what you have equipped at any given time, especially since you can't change badges in the middle of a fight. Further, many of these additional abilities consume another resource known as flower points. During combat, you can only execute these moves if you have enough flower points. So not only can you not equip every badge at once, you can only use the new abilities you do equip a limited number of times. It's these limitations and strategic thinking that gives Paper Mario's combat its depth. You need to think about who you're going up against and weigh the cost and benefits of using different abilities. Another great part of the badge system is the freedom it gives you to customize Mario for different styles of playthrough. One thing many longtime fans of these games like to do is make the games harder by prohibiting certain actions or by playing by certain rules. For example, some people will play the entire game without using the jump ability. Other people might refuse to level up Mario's health, forcing him to remain at 10 HP the entire game. These challenges can be overcome by making use of the badge system. For example, if you decide not to use the jump ability, you might make use of the hammer throw ability in order to attack airborne enemies. If you choose not to increase Mario's health, you may invest in badges that increase Mario's defenses. There are many different ways to attack these challenges, and they are all made possible through the badge system. Coupled with the deep combat system is the leveling system found in the first two games. After defeating enemies, you are awarded with a resource known as star points, which are used to level up Mario. When you have accumulated 100 star points, you must decide to increase either your health, your flower points, or your badge points. It's a pretty basic system, but it's one that gives combat meaning. You want to seek out enemies and fight them because it will help you make Mario stronger. Increasing your flower points and badge points will add more depth to combat because it will increase the number of options you have when fighting enemies. It's these two systems working together that really makes Paper Mario's turn-based combat interesting and engaging. Now, I'm not saying that a new Paper Mario game would need to have these exact systems. The first two Paper Mario games are fairly old at this point, and they can definitely be updated to be more modern. However, I do believe whatever systems replace them should be fairly similar. They should add depth to combat to make it more strategic, and they should make combat something players want to seek out. In the newer games, for example, you go into combat with all of the stickers or cards you have in your inventory, and you are rewarded after each battle with either more stickers and cards or coins you can use to purchase more stickers and cards. This doesn't provide a lot of strategy and almost disincentivizes combat because you don't really get anything worthwhile. I want the kind of strategy and freedom found in the first two games, whatever form that may take in a modern game. The other main feature I look for in a new Paper Mario game is interesting stories and characters. The overarching stories in the first two games are the same as in most Mario games. Princess Peach gets kidnapped and you have to rescue her. However, the stories within that basic plot are what really elevate the overall stories in both games. The first Paper Mario game sees Bowser steal the Star Rod from a place called Star Haven. The Star Rod is a powerful magical object that is used by the Star Spirits to grant people's wishes. Bowser uses the power of the Star Rod to kidnap and imprison the 7 Star Spirits and then kidnaps Princess Peach while defeating Mario. After recovering from Bowser's attack, Mario goes on an adventure to free all 7 Star Spirits so that they can help him neutralize the Star Rod and defeat Bowser. It's a solid story that involves a lot of unique and entertaining characters who help add personality to the game. The Thousand-Year Door begins with a treasure hunt for objects called the Crystal Stars. The game takes place in a town called Roogport, where there is a legend about a treasure found behind an object called the Thousand-Year Door. The legend says that the door will only open for someone with all 7 crystal stars. You are invited by Princess Peach to search for this treasure, but when you arrive in Roogport, she is nowhere to be found. While you begin hunting for the treasure, you discover that Peach has been kidnapped by a group known as the X-Nauts, who are also looking for the crystal stars. They intend to use the objects and the treasure behind the Thousand-Year Door to conquer the world. It's a darker story than the first game, but it's still very lighthearted and funny due to an even more unique and wacky cast of characters. Based on these descriptions alone, you can tell that these games have more story than your typical Mario game, which is the point I'm trying to make. For me, a huge part of Paper Mario is the detailed stories and the characters involved. Each Star Spirit and Crystal Star takes you to specific regions of the world that each have their own stories and personalities. Some locations in the first game include a desert with secret ancient ruins that you need to uncover, and a creepy forest which is terrorized by a seemingly invincible monster who likes to eat booze. Don't ask me how that works. Some locations in the Thousand-Year Door include a fighting arena with dark rumors about fighters disappearing, and a town covered in perpetual twilight where people are turned into pigs every time a bell rings from the nearby steeple. These stories can be very bizarre at times, which makes for a very compelling narrative. On top of these interesting stories, the diversity of characters that you meet is a big part of establishing Paper Mario's narrative. Both games have partners that join Mario on his adventure for one reason or another, and they are all unique from the typical Mario character. You have Goombella, the pink archaeologist Goomba who is researching the Thousand-Year Door. There's Kooper, a blue-shelled Koopa looking for adventure so that he can be like his role model, Colorado. There's Admiral Bobbery, a sailor Bob-omb who loves the open sea but suffers from guilt over the death of his beloved. Each of these characters is unique not only in appearance but in personality as well. And that goes for many of the characters you meet throughout your adventures. The major players in each area all look very distinct when compared to the average character. Take Shiver City from the first Paper Mario game. All the inhabitants of the city are penguin-like creatures called Bumpties, and they all look alike. However, the mayor of the city, his wife, the town detective, and the town's novelist all look distinctly different from the rest of the town. Even though they are ultimately minor characters for the purpose of the story in that region, they are all visibly distinct from the rest of the town's inhabitants. It's that kind of diversity of character design that I expect out of a Paper Mario game. One of the critiques I had for the Origami King trailer was that I thought most of the characters looked fairly generic. For example, I think the Bob-omb in this scene looks like any other Bob-omb, save for a missing fuse. While many people have pointed out the lack of a fuse as an indication that he is not generic, I would argue that that's not enough of a change for me. Just take a look at 2 Bob-ombs from the Thousand-Year Door, Admiral Bobbery and Popatch. These 2 characters are obviously Bob-ombs, but their appearances are drastically different from that of your standard Bob-omb. They both have wheels of some sort in the back instead of the typical wind-up mechanism. They both have head coverings, items on their faces, and are different colors from the standard black Bob-ombs. On top of that, these characters have names, whereas the one in the Origami King trailer is simply called what he is. When I say I'm disappointed by what I view as a generic-looking Bob-omb, these are the kinds of characters I'm referring to. Simply removing a fuse is not enough of a change for me, especially when you can find Bob-ombs in the first Paper Mario game that don't have fuses and are different colors. So those are the main things I look for in a new Paper Mario game. I want to see a deeper combat and leveling system that makes combat more strategic and incentivizes engaging in combat in the first place. I also want interesting and engaging stories and characters that create a compelling narrative. Like I said earlier, I'd also like to see one interconnected map with a hub space like in the first 2 games, as well as environmental puzzles to balance out combat. Before I end this video, I just want to reiterate that I am not saying the Origami King will be bad or that it will not have any of the features I've discussed. While I have given examples of things that have me concerned, I cannot fully judge this game because it's not out yet. For all I know, this game may have one of the best narratives of the series, and the ring-based combat may actually turn out to be both deep and very strategic. We won't know until the game comes out in July, but I wanted to share my thoughts on the series so that people have a better understanding for what it is I'm looking for.